Hello, everyone. I'm Ronan Unchained, and welcome to Bottles and Bricks, a Last of Us podcast. I'm your host, and in a little bit, we're going to be discussing the Entertainment Weekly photos of season 2, HBO's The Last of Us. There's some juicy stuff to be discussing. I might be having some panelists coming down soon, some friends, fellow fans, to discuss the just the implications they're putting out with these photos. And if you know, you know, and if you don't know, God or whatever the hell is out there to help you, because there is just so much context without it being context when it comes to this show. And these photos are just of another realm, in my opinion. And it made sense that these photos were the ones that were captured of what they shot and what they're teasing of what will be coming down the pipeline in April. If you haven't yet thus far, subscribe to the channel. We have this whole podcast called Bottles and Bricks, the Last of Us podcast, dedicated to Last of Us related stuff, whether it be the comics, the games, the show themselves, or any other news concerning merch or events, if you will. It's weird. It's an interesting time because you would think that today, where they're promoting that tomorrow, we're getting the Fantastic Four teaser, and we're gonna get all Jurassic World on Wednesday, that they just randomly just dropped this promoting it, but it's the week before and the Super Bowl, so it makes sense they probably dropped that. Hi, Lance. How you doing, Lance? Good seeing you. Yes, run these subs up. Yeah, folks. I want to reach 1,000 subs ASAP. The sooner that becomes a fruition thing, then the building blocks can start growing and my crazy ideas come to fruition. So thanks, man. Glad to see you on the comments. Let's see. All right. Let's do. That's amazing. So we already know that this is very much teasing the subway sequence. We're already sensing it right there. So we know April is the big day for all of us. Which exact date? Who knows at this point? But I'm pretty sure that if stuff like Devil May Cry is coming out on April 3rd, I believe, that they don't want to be mixing up with something big. So I figure that either it'll be in the middle, right in the middle of April, or at the tail end of it. That way they can do 2 months of worth of work spread out, or maybe even 3 months of stuff of just the episodes dropping. So there's a lot to be coming with this. And I want to see what else is coming down here. Let's see. All right. So I'm going to go with the first photo that already has been teased from the very first few footage of video shown to us, which is Joel, like this, Pedro Pascal. I'm telling you, y'all, that the fact that we're getting this scene, similar context, but with a different person in Kaitlyn O'Hara's character, is just wild to me, and says a lot of how much they're probably going to start the season and how much they're going to stay close to the material part 2. How much, when will they start differentiating? Who knows? But should be interesting. And I just love that, like, Pedro's gonna have a good year for himself between Fantasy Four and I think some other indie stuff. It's just that, like, I love that there's still it's gonna be very much Bella Ramsey's story journey in this one, and another character in Abby. But I like that the presence of Joel and what he went through and what he did in season 1 is still being felt, even just with this one image. They got the jacket right. The broken watch is still with them. And I'm interested to see how long have these sessions been going on. I'm very, very fascinated to see if this just a recent thing or has it been months, years in the making. Has Catherine O'Hara's character just recently joined the Jackson community? Who knows? But it should be very, very evocative of how even in the end of the world, once Judgment Day has already happened, you still need to take care of yourself and not let yourself get eaten up from within. And I love that this show is still willing to bring this up. You know, the human element to it, and I just, oh, I adore this. Uh, let's see. Mm-hmm. Okay. Before we get to the very, very, very new footage that hasn't been teased yet, I'm going to go on another photo that has already been showcased from an angle. If you've been following our coverage and some of the photos that have come out since the first marketing happened, which is Ellie in a marketplace with a shotgun. Um, Again, it's sometimes very creepy seeing the stuff that you play through, that you went through for an hour or two, and it's in live action. It's there, and you seeing how Bella finally has a shotgun. That we have a shotgun in the show, folks. There's no more snipers and just small pistols. Who knows if they'll bring in actual bottles or bricks to it? But in the meantime, you know that this is the implications of her going on a scouting mission with Dina, played by Isabella Merced, and how she's not a kid anymore by this stage because, and we'll get into it later with the article, but time has passed almost halfway through a decade of living in this community, being part of a bigger population, and what that leaves Ellie at when now she has to fend for herself and those that she's grown attachment to. And yeah, I just, again, it's not from here. The sunlight might be different, but usually it's in the middle of a storm where they're doing this. Or maybe I could be wrong. Maybe it's another one. But I'm pretty sure this is the market session she's scouting with Dina. Unless I'm mistaken, my memory's bad and I have to replay the game again, which is a dreadful notion for me. But I love that. Just that feels like that feels almost like that's not the same kid I followed in season 1, which is heartbreaking, badass and heartbreaking at the same time. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. All right. What else? What else can I tease? What's another good way? Because again, we got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different photos about what's gonna come to us in April, and I'm trying to ease my way into it in a very non-spoiler factor. Until then, I can start breaking down the spoilery stuff. Let's see. Okay, I'll go with this one, which is part of the thumbnail. But we have here Ellie with Jesse, playing by young Messino. I believe that that's the fella's name. I could be wrong. But this is another thing that's been teased from the background, where it's the Joel first photo that we got, or the shot in the very first footage of back shot of Ellie looking at this dance sequence in the middle of the Jackson community. And I can already hear the lines. I hate these things. Yeah, me too. Your old man really got into me the other day, and just I love it. And for those who don't know, you can see another future best friend of Ellie, one of her tight clique, if you will. And should be an interesting angle. And I hope we spend more time with Jesse in the show than we did in the game. In the game, we did spend some time, and there's the camaraderie. But like with the show, I want to see if they give us that opportunity to see a little bit more of his background, spend some time with him on his own, and seeing why he is friends with Ellie and why would Ellie take to him as a amigo. And yeah, I just adore that. Just, oh man, the shirt, ponytail, glass of whiskey, or bourbon, whatever the hell they're drinking. I love it. I love it so much. And I'm gonna pose this question right now to everybody out here. Out of the first few photos I've been putting out, how are we feeling? Are we nervous of this adaptation? Because again, it's one thing that like you can't mess it up, and they didn't for me, for my money. They didn't mess up season one. Now we're getting into season two, which is the part two game, which is some people will love it more than the first one. It's very well received in critical form, and yet it's double the size. So how are we feeling with these first few images of them investigating and seeing what's being brought to life? I'm very curious to hear from y'all if like I don't like that doesn't match, or are you going with the flow of like, yeah, that feels right, that feels seamless, like bliss, pure bliss. 7 episodes. I don't know how the hell they're gonna do it. For those who don't know, this season's gonna be 7 episodes instead of 9. Where they're gonna end it, who knows at this point? I mean, I have different theories going around in my head, but if they already know that they're gonna have to go for season 3 that hasn't been greenlit, they better balance it out well in terms of pacing and time duration with an episode. Because again, it's 7 episodes, so you how much are we spend time with Jackson, and then how quickly are we gonna get the hell out of Jackson? TBD. I have somebody who's a fellow survivor.
Yo.
Chico,
What's up, man?
how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm
What's up?
good. How was
Oh,
the
man.
how was the Music Monday stream?
Oh, it was good. It was good. We listened to some metal music. Chainsaw gave me some good songs. Not
There
everything
you
was
go.
good, but we got a couple good ones in.
There
But
it is.
these pictures, dude. Oh my god. What a
Bro,
what a day.
um, what a day. You know what, folks? Because now we do have a guest, I'm going to kick in something that is tradition now with these streams, but let's play it out and officially start the show because I'm very curious to see. I freaked out and I tagged him, so I want to hear
Oh
his thoughts
yeah.
when he starts seeing these photos, but let's
hmm
officially start the show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, Gianni, I started with this one. I specifically chose photos that match stuff we've already kind of seen and I hit
Uh,
that. So we'll start with Pedro.
Of course. Of course.
Um, do you think what are your immediate thoughts when you see this photo like this? You've seen the footage of him crying one eye. This is a
Yeah.
specific angle shot. How are you feeling about it?
That to me seems like the scenes with Catherine O'Hara that we've been seeing in like the
Yeah,
teasers and the trailers where like looks like a therapy session of some kind, or something like that. I don't know if it's like maybe at Joel's house, if it's at her house, like where it is, but that's 100% the same scene I think we've been seeing in like all of the teasers pretty much is like they've been very selective with like what they've been showing of Pedro. They've really mostly only been showing that scene, I think. So that was one of the pictures I was like, okay, cool to see Pedro, of course. Like, love the long hair and part two outfit and everything, but it kind of been seeing the same thing over and over again, which in a way I kind of almost think is telling. But yeah, I mean, it's Pedro. Always happy to see Pedro.
yeah. Do you think I posed the question of like, I wonder how long has this session been going on? Is this just a recent new thing, or is it something that like, okay, we've been planning to work on this. Let's dive into it. How do you think? Do you think it's a new thing, or is this something that's been going on for a while?
Um, I mean, based off of like the show's interpretation of Joel, where he's a little bit more open with his, or not like open with his emotion, but like, he had that whole discussion with Tommy where like video game Joel would have
Yeah.
never really done that unless he kind of had to, like he did in the opening of the game.
Hmm.
And even that wasn't about his emotions really. It was just about what he did.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. I feel like there's a chance he could have been talking to her for a little bit, unless maybe Catherine O'Hara is kind of filling in to kind of give us like the scene of the opening of part two, which is a theory I had. Like maybe instead of telling Tommy, he's talking to her. So maybe it could just be a one-time thing, but I don't know. I'm figuring if you cast someone like Catherine O'Hara, probably a little bit more major of a role. Like not obviously like a big role, but I would be surprised if she's not slightly like a recurring character. So I would say probably been talking to her for a little bit,
Yeah.
maybe. How about you?
I think she's been part of the community for a while
Mm-hmm.
and has noticed him from afar.
Mm.
And maybe once in a while we'll catch it. Like, hey man, if you need to talk to someone one someday, feel free to come to my office. And he probably knows the verse. He's like, nah, therapy's not my shit. Like, well, fuck
Yeah.
that. I got
Yeah.
I got booze and I got my guitar.
Yeah.
And I think this was, maybe, if not the first day, probably the second day of like, okay, let's do this. And
Mm-hmm.
goes about it. And I don't know, because again, with the photo I'll show later on, this feels like the beginning of a day, and then the
Yeah.
later photo is the nighttime of the day. So we'll see if this was his first
True.
or second session, if you will. To be fair, I almost spoiled something. Jesus, with my wording, but yeah, I'm very intrigued to see how much the dynamics been going and how much the thought of this has been going around his head of trying to finally give this a try and let some stuff out of the can. But
Absolutely.
someone who I think is going to be shooting off cans out the wazoo is
Oh
one
yeah.
young Ellie over here
Mm.
holding a pistola, shotgun.
Oh
Am I
yeah.
crazy to think this is the market scene, right? With her and Dina scouting?
I was trying to figure that out. At first, when I initially saw the picture, I thought it was maybe the bank from Seattle, but then I thought about it more and
Ooh.
I was like, I don't know if that really like I don't know. Like I think it could be because the snow on the ground and
Yeah.
everything. That makes me think it's more like the market from like the beginning of the game. Because I
Yeah.
remember like when the first pictures of Bella and Pedro came out, I think this is probably the location of where Bella's picture's from. Now that we see like the
Yes.
lighting and the outfit and everything, I think that's pretty much confirmed. And I remember when I saw that picture too, I was like, I thought it looked like the bank a little bit, just because like at least in the game, like the bank is lit like a little bit more similar to that, where like
Daylight.
in
Yeah.
the game the market's a little bit more blue, like because of the snow and everything. So I think you've nailed it. I think it's probably that market when Dina and Ellie are out on patrol, like right before the storm gets really bad and they get held up in Eugene's little weed sex dungeon. So
Yeah.
I think I think that's where they're at in that
And I
picture.
feel like they probably listened to the fans saying, "We want more action and violence." And like, "Where's the shotgun?"
Yep.
He's like, "Okay,
Yeah.
here's your shotgun, but it also comes with a there's a cost to it." And like we've been seeing the stampede of clickers running, so it's like we
Yep.
didn't really have that in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe this is the result of like someone throws a sound and it's the calling
Causes a
card.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I I hope there is more action in season two. Like I wasn't like I don't know. Like in season one, I did think there was a part of the season where it felt like we went a little too long without
mm,
seeing infected. It didn't really bother me. I
yeah,
noticed it, but I wasn't like flipping out about it like how some people kind of were. Like
yeah.
I do hope we get more action in this season just because like, who doesn't want to see clickers and infected and, the other types of infected that we see in this game especially too.
Mm-hmm.
Um so I am hoping the action gets upped a little bit. And in the game, that little market thing is actually like a really kind of tense, tough encounter. At least for me, I remember like usually when I play that, I usually fuck up and die there for some reason. Like something usually happens. Like I'll get too aggressive or I'll fail stealth. So that'd be cool to see.
Yeah, my memory serves right. It was one of the first footage of what we saw how the new quote unquote new version of the clickers would look, and
Hmm.
how your your NPC or AI or buddy would help you out in a scenario. So like say, Ellie would fall down a place, Dina would be
Hmm.
right next to her holding a gun, ready to shoot something.
Yep.
So it's a very dynamic section of that and showing how this isn't the same action as season one. It can't be. It could be similar, but not it can't be the exact same. The acting
Yeah.
has to be upwards and whatnot.
I think it's all about variety because, like, in season one, it's like you get that amazing scene in the museum
Yeah.
with Tess and Joel where it's just super, super tense. That they cut down on the amount of infected that's like in the game because you kind of get swarmed there where they just have like a couple clickers in there, but it's so tense that it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And then you have like the crazy like Kansas City thing, or yeah, Kansas City, I think, in the show, where you have like the bloater and all that. Like, I feel like they kind of either like went big or went really small in the show. I would like some like even medium size like encounters like in the season where like I like the really tense low key ones, and then you have to have some of the crazy ones too. But like I'm cool with just getting like a chill little action scene every now and then, just something because I did think like when I was watching season one, sometimes be like, oh, like we're hitting all the story beats, but we are skipping over a lot of like the combat encounters, which like I get when you're focusing on telling the narrative of the game, like it makes sense to skip over the gameplay parts, but
Stick.
I
Yeah.
I think a lot of the gameplay parts are also very iconic in the series. Like I
Yeah.
love the Bill episode, but dude, when you're freaking held up in that school, awesome.
And you gotta push the
Like,
truck down
yeah,
down the
like it's
road.
it's
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
like it is awesome. So I was a little like butthurt that we didn't get that with Bill. I mean, what we got was great, and for storytelling, it's unbelievable. But
Yeah.
like, I did miss some of the action set pieces in season one. So I'm hoping they heard the criticism and like I don't need every single action set piece in the game of part two because then they'd have to be like 5 seasons long just to tell the story of part two, pretty much. Like,
Yeah.
but I would appreciate a little bit more sprinkled in. So that'd be cool if we get that little market scene. That'd be fun.
Yeah. Something that brews like an action sequence but isn't one is dance. We
Hmm.
got the Jackson dance, good old
Yep.
Jackson dance.
Oh yeah.
Um, Finally, officially, well, we saw one shot with him in the trailer, but
Yeah.
seeing this is I remember the very first time seeing this, be like, I hate these things. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Your old man really got into me, and like I just young Messino, I think that's his name from
Hmm.
Beef, if I'm not mistaken,
Yep.
feels like Jesse, and I'm just pumped for our audience to meet him, man. How do you feel just watching again, man? Something we played and been waiting to see. Oh, they're gonna get to Jesse and Dina, and how's that dynamic gonna be in the show versus the game?
Uh huh. Absolutely. I mean, this and another picture that I think you can probably guess stood out to me the most.
Yeah,
Um, it's just super cool. It's just super cool to see like the really iconic scenes from the game getting brought into the show. Because yeah, that dance scene is like one of the scenes in part two. Like when you think
yeah,
of the highlights of that game, I mean they used it in the big like reveal trailer for it too. Like it's one of the most iconic scenes from the game. So yeah, seeing anything from that is great. Um, I did like that they chose to show off Jesse instead of just doing like the picture of Ellie's, like the back of Ellie's head with the lights, or
yeah,
even like I'm happy that they chose to do that instead of maybe Ellie and Dina because we've seen Ellie and Dina a little bit in the marketing. We haven't, like you said, we haven't really seen Jesse except for like the one
shot.
quick split-second shot.
Yeah,
So I was happy that we got to see a good look at Ellie and Jesse because that's one of the elements from the game that I'm hoping gets expanded a little bit because I love Jesse in the game, even though he's really not in it as much as I would like him to be.
yeah,
So I'm hoping we get maybe a little bit more Jesse in the show. And yeah, it was just cool to finally get a good look at him.
yeah. This is one of those cases where like there's plenty of room for expansion,
Hmm.
especially in television, and
Absolutely.
And again, folks, 7 episodes. Who knows how they're gonna pull it off? They've said that some scripts might even be feature length. So like, all right, that gives you plenty of space for a character
Yeah,
like Jesse to like be leveled up.
absolutely.
No pun intended. Compared to the game.
Hmm.
Um, all right, I'm gonna keep going with the friend vibe because another shot that like hit home
Yeah.
was
Oh
like,
yeah.
oh my gosh, I
Yep.
sense shimmer and like
Yeah.
it's oh it is it's like just the
Yeah.
echo again, folks. We don't have to even hear the music or hear the lines. We can already feel
Oh
what's
yeah.
coming down the pipeline. And out of what we've seen from the visual standpoint, I think Isabella is going to honor Shannon Woodward to the nth degree.
Hmm.
And she's been saying that her and Bella's dynamics is palpable. And
Hmm.
I just can't wait to see where the honor is going to be and where Isabella's take of Dina is going to unfold before us. So, how do you feel seeing them rattle along on Jackson?
Awesome. I mean, just awesome shot. Seeing Jackson is just so cool to me. Like, I don't know why. Like, really, like in season one, like that was the location that just got me the most hype. Like when we saw Jackson,
Yeah.
uh, because I think I know how significant it is. Like in part two. So yeah, anytime I see Jackson, I just kind of get excited. And again, we're talking about like possibilities of expanding things. I think the
Hmm.
game did do a good job of like expanding Jackson with what they had with like a lot of just like when you can walk around and just kind of see what it's like there.
Yeah.
And just how like scarily accurate it feels to how it is in the game is like impressive. Like
Yeah.
it looks so good. And then yeah, like that's like the thing is like a lot of the pictures that they released today is like you said, you can just instantly like, oh, it's that scene from the game. There's a couple that are like different where like, oh, interesting. Like the Pedro one and maybe like another one that we're not gonna spoil yet. But that one, yeah, as soon as I saw that, yeah, like you said, I hear the music in my head. Again, that's another kind of like iconic shot I think of from the game trailer where, you see Jesse rallying everybody up to go out on patrol. Like, so
Yeah. Um, what's kind of ironic was that I saw Isabella put this on her Instagram,
mm,
and she chose Johnny Cash, June Carter's Jackson song with that
mm,
shot, and I'm like, that is as poetic as it gets
yeah, that's great.
about two people maybe connecting one out. Who knows? You got to check out the show,
Yeah,
or at least until we start talking spoilers. But
yeah.
let's hit some of the comments down here. Red Dragons 9 evening. Hello, man. How you doing?
What's up, dude?
I'm worried. Why are you worried, man? What's wrong? Let's see. I don't know how Abby is most like in the game. This part of her character being strong as an ox. We'll get to that. We'll
Yeah.
get to that.
Hmm.
You saw some of the images. She's supposed to be a threat. I'll get over the looks, but still bothers me. Um, we'll get to that. Trust me, we'll get to it
Hmm.
because I have some thoughts about that as well. And
Hmm.
I'll pull even the article in front of me to show the quotes of. We'll get the receipts.
Hmm.
Um, and something that I was like smack in the face.
Yeah, bro.
Boom.
Yeah, that
And I was
one.
like, holy shit.
Yeah, that I didn't expect to see that.
No.
The other picture I was referring to earlier, like being the ones that stood out to me, was the one of Abby, but this one too, I was like, wow, like okay, we're there, all right. Like,
Yeah.
so we're getting a definite time jump between season one and season two, because I know people were like complaining about like, oh, Bella doesn't really look any older, blah 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 blah. But I mean, Maria was what, just pregnant in season one, and that's a decent sized kid. So we're at least getting like a 4 year time jump, I'm assuming. So that was
Five,
good. That
maybe.
kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, 5. Yeah. So I think we're getting the full 5 year time jump. So that was a cool way of kind of like confirming that. And then yeah, wow, Tommy has a fucking kid. So
Folks,
what is that gonna do?
this was an element from season one that I was just like,
Yeah.
whoa. And this is where like it's like the game and then the show a couple times that I'm like, okay, that's an element of like, how
Yeah.
is that gonna be handled
Yeah.
going forward with the story? Because again, folks, it is an epic story. Regardless of how I feel about it, it's an epic story that I can't deny. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm very, very see worried to see
Dude,
how that plays out.
if
I've
you
been playing Last of Us One. It's good to play the game again. Also, first game, you can tell how scary Maria is. Well, she is.
she
She's
wears the
tough as
pants a little
nails.
bit. Yeah.
She runs the joint, like you
Yeah.
said, like, and so I appreciate that element was carried on with this one, where she's part
Yeah.
of the council,
Yeah.
and dropped some heavy stuff on Ellie in terms of like trust and whatnot. And yeah, man, this just is like, I'm like, oh wow, I know the dynamic between Maria and Tommy, but that I don't know how that's gonna go
Yeah.
in the next 7 episodes.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie, like when they dropped that bomb in season 1 of Tommy having a kid, and us game players knowing what's to come in part 2, I was like, dude, why are we putting another kid in this story, bro? Like, that genuinely scared me. I was like, what are we doing, Neil? Like, what are we doing, Craig? Why are we putting another kid that wasn't initially in the crossfire to begin with in this story? Like, it just terrifies me, dude. Like, what's gonna happen to this kid? Like, what does this mean? Like, it's a scary but very interesting thought, and I think it could maybe, well, not maybe, it's definitely going to add another element to some of Tommy's motivations in
Yeah,
part 2 that'll make certain choices, I think, a lot more complicated and heavy,
yeah,
without saying anything.
yeah.
It's gonna really add another element. So, like, I understand why they did it, but at the same time, it's like, Craig and Neil, you guys are fucking evil, dude. Like, why? Why'd you create another kid to put in harm's way, bro? Like, why? Like,
And it's fascinating dynamic because now we get that, which is the family element. We got the Millers. At least it's the next generation of the Millers. But we also see this photo, which I
yeah,
found fascinating, of like Tommy almost in a leader
yeah,
esque role, which is very much what I think he was trying to achieve when he was in the military before everything went to shit. And then he tried it with the Fireflies. I
yeah,
didn't like what he was doing, so he booked it and whatnot. So I love that this is echoing that, like, there is this leader aspect to Tommy, and I
absolutely.
think he's gonna realize that, like, even in the apocalypse, there's a heavy burden to go with being the leader, not just being a dad, not just being a brother, or quote unquote potential uncle, but like you got to be a leader for a community, and how people are just looking up to him there. And I love that Gabriel is getting that much work and
Yeah.
seeing what he can do with the character, and while
Mhm.
still doing what Jeffrey Pierce did and honoring that, but like saying, okay, this Tommy has a similar but yet more different role than what we've seen beforehand.
Yeah, I think that's gonna also be like another expansion that we're talking about, because like in the game you get a sense that Tommy obviously is a leader, because obviously Maria kind of runs the show. Like, you kind of think of like Tommy and Maria as like kind of the main two voices in Jackson,
Yeah.
even though you don't really see Tommy as much in that light in the game. I feel like they kind of shifted that more towards Maria. So I think it'll be really cool to see, yeah, like Tommy and Maria kind of like in their position of power, so to say, like in Jackson, kind of like running things a little bit. And yeah, I think it's really, really cool. And echoing, it kind of in a way reminded me a little bit of like some of the stuff we saw with David in season 1, of like how he was having his meetings with everybody in his little cult kind of thing.
Yep.
So I kind of got that of like, oh, we saw like the fucked up version of that where they're eating people. Maybe now we'll see the good version with Tommy where he's just, trying his best. So
Yeah.
that's kind of,
Um,
that gave me a little reminder of that.
a little echo of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, showing that like some people
Yeah.
made it work, quote unquote, in that resort, and some people did make it work, but it's still a struggle in that. And yeah, I agree with that notion. Red Dragons 9 says, "LOL, all the pregnant people." Jesus.
Yeah.
In the apocalypse. Mikel Jordan says, "Is The Last of Us Part 2 will be one season, or will they spread out the game into more than one season for that game?" It's gonna be more than one season. There's no way in hell they can do part 2 in one season. There's no, they barely made, they barely like got the first game in 9 episodes.
Yeah.
And they've already mentioned that like the plan was always to do more than one season. They haven't greenlit a season 3 yet, but right now they're having convos to make that an official stamped thing out at HBO and whatnot. Also, do more streams. Love them. Missed the last stream. Thank you so much. That's very sweet. Very, very sweet of you. Today, they also dropped the Cobra Kai Netflix trailer for the last few episodes this month, and then Max drops these images today too. Folks, today has been wild because it's, Fantastic Four, mañana, Jurassic World, Wednesday, these photos, the trailer for Cobra Kai.
It's crazy right now.
The days leading up to the Super Bowl are wild, and I can't imagine what they have in store for Super Bowl day. So,
dude, yeah,
I agree. It's
a lot. I mean, and then just harping on the multiple seasons for part 2. I mean, Craig and Neil basically said, like, going in, like, even though HBO hasn't greenlit it, technically they basically confirmed themselves that, like, if given the opportunity, which we all know they will, it's at least going to be 2. And then I think there was a report that one of them said maybe even 3 seasons of part 2. If I'm not
they might even
mistaken.
go beyond that. Yeah. I'll bring up the article in a little bit, but we got one more photo to go over.
Oh yeah, we do.
And there, folks who don't know anything about the wilderness, is that sometimes in the forest, sometimes out in the open, there's 2 type of people, species, if you will. There's the prey, calm, steady ones, and there's the predators that come in ways of hawks, of foxes, and sometimes even wolves. And the first half here, the Seattle crew, the Wolf Squadron, led by Abby, played by the amazing Kaitlyn Dever. Holy shit!
Yeah, this was the image that kind of caught my attention, made my jaw drop a little bit, because we talked about in the last stream how much we've been waiting to see them, and we finally got to look at them. So wow, because I'm not gonna lie, I didn't have a chance to read the article. I was kind of just scrolling through to look at the pictures, and when I hit that one, I was like, okay, there it is. I was wondering when we were gonna see that. So that was like the big, like, mic drop moment of this article for me, picture wise.
Yeah.
So
and what's wild is that, like, it doesn't feel as many as I remember them, but, like, just seeing them walk through that hill, I'm like, oh, that feels like what I felt when I encountered these individuals. And, like, kudos, man, they're doing, all of them, Manny, Nora, Mel, Owen, fucking how's that dynamic gonna go down? And let's see. I hate them. I know what happened. No, don't do it.
Oh, they're doing it.
I don't want to happen, but to quote Thanos, it is inevitable. It just, if you're gonna do this story and you don't do that, and there's a universe that I'm happy that they wouldn't do it, but if you're gonna do the story, you have to do it. You have to go down this road. Yeah. Especially if you want to really make it switch of, like, no, we're gonna go up to 11, make it darker than season 1. I tell folks, enjoy season 1 because that's as happy and calm as it gets. You might feel a moment here and there in season 2 and onwards with part 2, but it's gonna just get worse and worse and worse.
Only goes downhill from here.
Yeah.
After the hospital, it only goes downhill. And that's kind of the entire point of the hospital, is like that was such a heavy and big decision that it quite literally sent shockwaves throughout the universe pretty much. And what does that mean? So the story is incomplete without that event. As much as we all don't want that event to happen, I think we all can agree, like, the world would be a better place if that event doesn't happen. We'd all be a lot happier and less depressed and probably on the verge of needing therapy, but it has to happen. It has to. No one wants to see it, but it's gonna have to happen. The story doesn't work without it, whether we like it or not. So I just even without
Gustavo's amazing music, I'm hearing the Shining theme, I'm hearing the Halloween theme. I'm just like just dread,
there they are,
dread walking up the hill, and just like, oh man,
Yeah,
Oh,
what a
there's more
shot.
than doing it.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see if I can share the screen because I want to show this to audiences. I want to see if I could be like, all right. So
Nice.
for those who don't know, the reason why this happened is because Entertainment Weekly dropped a bomb
Yeah.
on pop culture. And before we started, I want to say I hate those people, bad people. Miguel, I get where you're coming from, but yeah, if you want to hate the characters, fine. Don't hate the actors. I want to
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
that clear for everybody here that like we're not
Separate the art
promoting.
from the artist.
Like these people are not the characters. So don't be one of those imbeciles that was happening in 2020. Be better.
Yeah.
We can be better.
Yeah.
I think Owen looks the most menacing in that image. That's a take.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a take because he is taller and whatnot. That's a take.
Yeah, he is physically the
Um,
biggest.
yeah. And
He
Mikhail
doesn't look
says
happy.
that you think the show will get a lot of hate more than the game or about the same of what happened. Um,
I don't know how to say in like a not as kind of unpolite way, but and I'm kind of shitting on myself with this comment. I think TV watchers may be a little bit more sophisticated and well mannered than some video game players. In a
it's
way, it's a fucked up comment to make, and I kind of feel bad saying it, but it's just kind of true in my opinion. Like I, and like the stories out there where like when the game came out, the leak happened and like no one knew what was going to happen. You know what I mean? Like that's the first time that story is being told.
yeah,
We know the story now.
yeah,
So like there's not the surprise factor anymore. I mean, for the people that haven't played the game, there is, but there's going to be backlash, but I don't see it getting to the level of the game because the game got disturbing with death threats and just
yeah.
atrocious
The
things like that.
visualness, but also this is from the studio that did Game of Thrones, and I
Yeah.
remember where I was when that last season came, and it was just like, I remember going well. I didn't dodge a bullet, but like I hope some people did dodge those bullets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say TBD. Um, but let's hope. I sound so corny. Let's hope we can be better this time because
No, I
again,
agree.
I
It's
know I'm gonna get mad. I know
yeah.
you folks might see Run on Chain doing a reaction, fucking throw my chair into the fucking window, or I might break something, and it's just like that's how I deal with it. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna write any threats or anybody like that. No. I'm gonna just break my mirror, whatnot, and be
Yeah.
like, that's what the game it was willing to do for my experience, whether I liked it or not.
And you know what?
Um,
If it gets that much of a reaction out of people, then what the only thing that says is that Neil and Craig are doing a fantastic job with what they're doing. Because if the
I
show
mean,
can
they
affect
care.
you that much emotionally, that means it's a fucking fantastically written show. Even though people want to say like the game isn't well written or whatever,
I have my
if it
issues
gets
with it,
you,
but yeah.
if it gets you that mad to have that strong of a reaction to it, eh, you know,
It means they're onto something.
it means they're
Yeah,
onto something. So
yeah.
that's
Let's see. Before we start, let's see. You think the show? Yeah, we read that. Yeah, great gamer are kind of bad sometimes with leaks. Oh, that's a whole nother episode for another
yeah.
podcast about
Yeah,
that.
that whole leak thing
So
was just yeah,
it was ridiculous. So the article says Last of Us Season 2 packs quite a wallop.
yeah,
Creators set the stage for the high calorie dense episodes, exclusive by Nick Romano. Hey, Romano. So certain memories stick with Neil Druckmann, a creator of The Last of Us, from where he was making the second installment of the acclaimed video games. He remembers his showrunning partner Craig Mazin of Chernobyl fame popping over to Naughty Dog headquarters in Santa Monica to brainstorm not only season 1 but season 2 of the HBO series. While Druckmann's team of devs worked diligently to meet their deadlines on 2020's The Last of Us Part 2. He said, we'd be talking about game 2, and in fact, there's a lot of changes, sometimes small adjustments, sometimes bigger, that we're making in anticipation of adapting game 2, he tells Entertainment Weekly. So even before game 2 was out, we were deep in conversations about where the characters are going and ultimately what we're trying thematically to say with this whole story. That is wild. In the middle of that shitstorm that he had to also be working about this show. That's fucking
that's actually insane to
wild.
think about. That while he was trying to ship part two, like with the leaks happening and the pandemic happening, he was also
Yeah.
working on that's insane, dude. That's actually
Yeah.
nuts. Wow.
Yeah. And let's see. I think Tina looks great. Isabella Merced. I didn't even know she was in the Installment Family movie. A young Isabella Merced. Yep. And I
Hmm.
tell folks to go check out Sicario de Soldado. It's not
Yes.
as great as the first Sicario. I still dig it, but
Hmm.
she really, I was like, I'm gonna have to keep an eye on this one. I think she's got
Hmm.
something to her, and Alien Isolation, and then Hawk Girl, and now this.
Yeah.
Isabella's gonna be doing some great work, I think, in the foreseeable future. I want to see
Absolutely.
the new zombie from The Last of Us. Just really the new big zombie to live. Oh,
Yeah.
wait! You just wait.
Yeah.
You just wait, and then something. Who knows? Maybe be careful what you wish for. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Um, but in addition to those brainstorms, Druckmann remembers a particularly fraught time in 2020. Not only was his team working through the global COVID-19 pandemic, which forced a delay in the game's release, they were leaks that spoiled massive plot points in the story. I'm gonna see if I can read ahead. That way, no spoilers get kicked in here. But to paraphrase what's being said here is that there was a lot of toxicity and it was just a bloodbath. Like
Yeah.
even like folks, again, I didn't know Gianni at that time, but like I was trying to digest this story, this game, while knowing that stuff had leaked, and somehow I avoided it. And again, folks, it was weird that I couldn't be online, and I had to take turns with another relatives, like 8 hour shifts, 6 hour shifts, just playing the game to
Hmm.
experience it and not get spoiled. And we didn't want to be ahead of one another.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was a dark time. It was a dark time from a thematic,
Yeah.
literal and figurative way. Because again, the pandemic in the real world, playing a game about a fucking pandemic
Yeah.
going on, and just how people went about showing their stuff. And again, a
And
quote of his is that some of that stuff was borderline traumatic. And he
yeah,
said in the documentary of Grounded Part Two, which you should go check out.
absolutely.
And we also covered it on the channel.
Uh-huh.
That like he barely made it out. He barely made it out of shipping that game,
Yeah.
and says that Druckmann admits, reflecting on the response nearly 5 years later, as he and Craig Mazin are about to present the game's story to a new kind of audience. It happened in the beginning of COVID, so there were a lot of very negative things all happening at once. You can't help but think about it now. It's one of those stories that will forever be stuck with me. But our brand is that we pander to no one. We do what's best for the story, and whatever happens, happens. There's a very particular story we wanted to tell, and we stuck to our guns.
Yep.
Again, as much as
Kudos.
I disagree at points with the choices, they stick to they got the cojones and they stuck with it.
Absolutely.
The strategy continues to pay off. The Last of Us Part 2 became a sensation, selling more than 4 million units over its release weekend alone before going on to win award after award at the Oscars of the gaming industry, the Game Awards. And now, as Mason and Druckmann prepare for the premiere of the show's 7 episode second season, which begins their Part 2 adaptation this April, they do so from atop of a pedestal of their own making. The team's work on The Last of Us Season 1, starring Pedro Pascal as Joel and Bella Ramsey as Ellie, garnered Game of Thrones level ratings and Emmy recognition. Fuck yeah, baby.
Yep.
Fuck yeah. I'm like, George R. R. Martin, hold my beer. You want to keep work on your books, finish them? We'll take care of HBO.
Yes, sir.
Tens of millions of people liked it week after week after week, and that's a number that's hard to get out of our minds, says Mason. We are accountable to them, and we think of our job is to continue to do what we did, which is to challenge people and to delight them, surprise them, and make them feel and provoke thought within them. We don't react to the fear of the audience, meaning our own fear of how they might react to it. Druckmann reinforces. We keep asking, what's the best choice for this story for these characters? That's the choice we make. I don't
Mhm.
know, man. Thus far, how you feeling with them saying that like they're almost again through the lines, they're saying we're gonna get shit
Yeah.
because of season two, and we know that, so we're gonna just go full on running into it. How do you feel about with these remarks?
I mean, I I feel like it's not really news to like us because I think we went in anticipating them to not really change like the main pillars of the story. So I'm glad that they're kind of just like accepted, like, yeah, instead of trying to maybe pander to all of the criticisms that the game got, we're going to stick to the original vision of the story, expand it, and change things in ways that maybe improve the original story, but it's still the original story of part two. Like, we're going to do the story no matter how people felt about it the first time. We're going to do it, but, you know,
Yeah,
I feel like that's kind of the best way to go about it because, yeah, you can't, like Neil said, you can't pander to anyone, like, just because a lot of people flip the fuck out over the story doesn't mean that, oh, well, a lot of people didn't like it, so now we have to completely basically rewrite the second game for this season of TV. Like, no. You have to stick with it, do it, and then if you want to change things that make sense, then that's fine. So
Yeah.
I think it's just good to hear that they're kind of sticking to it personally. As someone that
Reinforcing
loves
that.
part two.
Yeah. Yeah, if you watch the documentary about how Last of Us 2 was created, it's quite interesting. It's in the Last of Us Season 2 game with the extra content. Yeah. I got the remastered version with no return mode as a very fun game. Right on. Right
Yes.
on.
Yes, it is.
So folks, just a heads up right now that there may be spoilers down here, or at least information being given that you might not want to know ahead of time. So be warned that we're gonna read some stuff that is gonna emphasize what we know and some stuff that's like was a little shocking, but not too surprising for us of what's coming down with season 2.
Mhm.
So they said that every scene that appears in the teaser for season 2 was surgically carved out, and a lot of that has to do with a new character named Abby. Season 2 picks up 5 years after the events of season 1,
Nice.
and they are, Joel and Ellie are settled in Jackson, Wyoming, in a commune run by Joel's sister-in-law Maria, who now has a child with his brother Tommy. And Ellie is for once enjoying a normal life as a teenager. She even has a crush on a girl named Dina, played by Isabella Merced, who happens to be the ex of her close friend, Jesse, played by young Massino. However, there remains tension between her and Joel, who are still grappling with the actions he took to save Ellie's life on that cold Firefly hospital bed in the season 1 finale. So this is going to get tricky about Abby, and the differences that there's going to be between video game Abby and TV show Abby. I want to get to the stuff where I had read a little bit of this, but I was very intrigued to see what you thought of this. Let me see.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, because I didn't get to read the article actually, so I'm enjoying this.
Yeah, so the storylines for Ellie and Abby are so intertwined in the games that the casting of Kaitlyn Dever as the latter now feels poetic. Years prior to the HBO series, as Druckmann recalls, Screen Gems originally hoped to turn The Last of Us into a movie, though it never quite came together. They assembled a troupe of actors for a table read, and among them was a young Dever, who read for the role of Ellie.
That's
Again,
very
folks,
interesting.
very weirdly
funny.
poetic and like in a paradox way of just like, you were supposed to be polar opposite of Abby in many regards.
Mm-hmm.
And he says that we just remain in touch. And I believe Craig had the idea of using Kaitlyn for Abby when we talked about season 2. The reason we cast Kaitlyn is because she's an incredible actor. You look at her body of work and the way she throws herself at that stuff. We value performance over anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing, and shout out to, again, the Seattle crew. We see Owen played by Spencer Lord. We see Mel played by Ariela Barrera. We see Owen's girlfriend, Nora, being played by Tati Gabriel, who's going to be the new star of Intergalactic, the new IP from Naughty Dog. And we see Manny, played by Danny Ramirez. And this is where it's going to get very interesting. I'm very interested to hear your takes. One of the biggest differences from the game, which fans will no doubt point out, is Abby's physique. Game Abby, originally voiced and acted through the performance captured by Laura Bailey, is a towering, muscled woman, while Dever's Abby is close in appearance to Ramsey's Ellie. Mm-hmm. In the spirit of getting ahead of any fan comments, Druckmann has a few thoughts on the subject.
Okay.
From a story standpoint, there are different priorities for the show, Druckmann notes. While the game saw Abby maneuver like Joel in the way she can physically manhandle certain things, that element doesn't play a big role in this version. There's not as much violent action moment to moment, he says. It's more about the drama. I'm not saying there's no action here. It's just, again, different priorities and how you approach it. More importantly, Kaitlyn has the spirit of the game in her, he continues. What I always loved about the idea was that you are going to continually be challenged as you were in season 1. When you try to pick a hero, it's tough because we're human beings. We're not heroes. For every heroic act, there's someone who suffers on the other side who you see reasonably as a villain. When you look at Kaitlyn, there's just something in her eyes where even no matter what she's experiencing, you connect. It was important that we found somebody that we could connect to the way we connect to Bella. Mm-hmm. Mazin adds, I personally think that there is an amazing opportunity here to delve into someone who is perhaps physically more vulnerable than Abby in the game, but whose spirit is stronger. And then the question is, where does her formidable nature come from, and how does it manifest? That's something that will be explored now and later.
Mm.
Um, so when I read that, I was like, "Ooh, that's a take."
Yeah.
And let's see. Before we get to you, I wonder once they're done with Last of Us Collection, they want to make Last of Us Part 3 the game. TBD, and that's something. Trust me, folks. I had that talk of Part 3 in my back pocket when the time is right. Trust me, I'm not ignoring it. I'm just choosing to focus on Part 2 story in the meantime. And I think there is show now making a Last of Us 3 just taking a while. Yes, TBD. You hear that, Johnny? What do you think?
I mean, I again for the show, I kind of anticipated that, and it makes sense because I mean, even when I was talking about it, like with, I talked about it with my mom because she's actually a fan of the games. I played the games like in front of her, and she like watched them as a movie pretty much, and she loved them. I was talking about that when the show was announced. I was like, I wonder who they're going to cast to play Abby because I said if they want to be accurate to the game, you have to basically find someone who's like a bodybuilder and is an unbelievable actress because really to me more importantly than how physically imposing Abby is in the game, she has a lot of very heavy emotional scenes. So like for me the emotion is more important than the physical aspects. Like I'd rather have someone that's a great actress make me care about the actual character than having someone that's buff but can't act as good. You know what I mean? Like, or something like that. Not saying that there's not someone out there that probably is ripped and could do an amazing job of portraying Abby, but for this version of the show where like, yeah, Bella, it's no secret everyone complains that she's so small. This version of Ellie. Um, I think if you had Bella going up against someone that looked like Abby in the game, it would just be laughable. Um, because it'd just be like, how the fuck is like how?
Yeah.
So for this interpretation of the story, I think it's fine. Like it's gonna be different. Like it's like a gameplay thing. Like we even saw it with Joel in a way. Like
Yeah.
Joel is extraordinarily violent in part one, and you know he's really not that much in part one, like not even near how violent he is in the game. Obviously, you still have the hospital and everything, but it's not like the fucking death animations in part one where like you're stomping people's heads in and like bashing their faces up against brick walls and stuff. Like it's not Joel just literally beating people's like just like crushing people's skulls with his bare hands and stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
we already kind of had that, so like I went in kind of expecting it, especially when we heard the casting of Kaitlyn. I was like, oh, I mean, yeah, like it makes sense because she's a great actress. But obviously, unless they got her on steroids, that wasn't going to happen. So, for me, I prioritize the characterization of like the emotion more than the violence and just being big.
Yeah, to me, it's interesting because again, I have mixed emotions about Abby, but like
Mm-hmm.
I always respected the concept of like, oh, she went full quote unquote anti Sarah Connor, where
Yeah,
like Sarah bulked up and became the ultimate weapon,
yeah,
and in Nuance became the Terminator itself, which she was trying to fight. Um, I
that is
love
true.
I love that aspect to it, and I was it was one of the few things that like I was like I acknowledge and respect that choice, and I
Yeah,
didn't fucking bitch him on about like how the fuck is she keeping herself in track in this
yeah,
Judgment Day post apocalyptic world,
mm-hmm.
but much like how I feel about Troy is very much Joel to me, and
Yeah,
yet also Pedro is very much Joel to me, and how like
yeah,
you need something to be like that's very much Pedro's Joel, and this is very
mm-hmm.
much Troy's Joel. You need
Yeah,
something that's very much Laura's Abby, and you need something
mm-hmm.
that's very much that's Kaitlyn's Abby.
Yeah,
Um, have they already met, Laura and Kaitlyn? Who knows? I can only imagine how surreal that must feel for her because I know what Troy and Ashley went through with Bella and Pedro.
Yeah.
But not surprising, and I think they're gonna very much lean into almost very like literal sense, which again some folks might not dig all the
Mhm.
way of like two sides two sides of the same fucking coin of like they almost might even look alike, and
Yeah.
how they're very polar opposite at a lot of these points in this story.
Absolutely.
Yeah, not shocking. A little
Mhm.
surprised that it was confirmed and they just flat out said it like, no, we're not doing that. Though there
Yeah.
is a conversation to be had of like, okay, maybe they truly believe in Kaitlyn's acting performance and what she can bring in, but I wonder if they could have built up around someone that they maybe didn't forego see just the talent of just acting, but
Mhm.
saying, what if we found someone who was both
Yeah.
and yet we could find them bringing this character to life. Who knows? I mean, I know there was someone that is in Yellow Jacket that people are fan casting so much over
Yeah.
Abby. I know I had told her like, bless you if you take on the role, but you would have my vote of Katie O'Brien to take on the role of Abby.
Mhm.
But then again, age might have been difficult to do.
Yeah.
But I'm game. To me, I they didn't let me down with season one, and I trust Craig Mazin out of Chernobyl. So I
Mhm.
will say I will hold any criticism and critiques until I see all of 7 episodes and see how I feel with this version of Abby.
Yeah. I think what you said though is very true because yeah, I think that is one of the coolest aspects of Abby in the game is yeah, she built herself up for the mission pretty much and that was a core fundamental part of like her motivation. So like missing that could be, you know, I think maybe at least in my head, instead of maybe focusing on the physicality of it,
Yeah,
it's more of like military tactics of it instead. That's kind of the vibe I think they're probably going to go for. Because, like, yeah, obviously Abby in the game builds herself up to be insanely strong and just a one woman wrecking crew, pretty much. Like, she's basically the WLF's fucking just like, yeah, just put Abby on him and she'll fucking murder everyone and that's it. Problem solved. I
yeah,
think she's more gonna be like, you know, she's smart, tactical, calculated instead of kind of brute force.
yeah.
And again, like mirroring Ellie, you know, obviously Ellie's gameplay style and everything in the games is she's the stealthy kind of character. I think Abby will probably be similar to Ellie, where more stealthy in the show probably, and like you said, two sides of the same coin. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting.
Imagine they flip it where Ellie's more brute
I could
force.
see because they built. I mean, they made a point to show in season one that Ellie has a strong underlying kind of darkness to her, like a beast waiting to be let out. I think Abby in the show is going to be more calculated and like just, you know, this is
Chess
my mission,
pieces.
this is what I have to do. And Ellie's going to be like a fucking rabid dog, like let off a leash, where when she's out, she's going nuts. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's probably going to be the dynamic of like Abby's the calculated soldier, and Ellie is just the fucking just yeah wild card of like I'm just gonna kill you now, like Deadpool. I'm gonna fight you now. Like, I'm just gonna murder everyone now. So I
um,
think that could still be a really interesting way to go about it. So I'm down.
yeah, I'm gonna finish up a little bit more of the article to wrap it up between
Hmm.
that because there's the whole folks. You can go read it. I encourage you to go read it. It's an amazing article. But
Hmm.
they also show that like season two is indeed just the beginning. Mason and Druckmann previously revealed that their plans to adapt the events of part two across multiple seasons. While HBO has not officially greenlit their outing just yet, conversations have been had. I think it's pretty likely that our story will extend past season three. How far
Oh, there it
past? I
is.
can't say. That's not to say that there are not other stories that could be told, but this story is the one that Neo and I are telling. So that's
Mm,
intriguing. Like that's not the only story that
okay,
could be told. And again,
interesting.
folks, if you look at Grounded 2, Neil said that there was a written story of Tommy after the events of part two. So TBD, that's a hint at that one that could come down the
Yeah.
pipeline.
Wow.
And Druckmann adds, we have a plan. We know what we need to do going forward, but we couldn't tell you right now exactly how many episodes or how many seasons it would take to get there. And according to Druckmann, their first exercise in mapping out the show's trajectory entailed splitting the entire narrative arc of Part 2 into chunks to figure out what stories could be told or expanded upon. Once they pinpointed where to cap Season 2 and in TV's golden age of the 8-episode season, that now falls on Episode 7. Then began the excruciating detailed work of filling in the specifics. Each episode is like a meal. You can have a light dinner, or you can go to a 12-course French restaurant. We have 7 episodes. There are high-calorie, dense episodes. If you consider action and drama and the scope to be the things that create an epic nature, each one of these episodes packs quite a wallop. You will not be bored. Okay, good, very good.
Yeah.
And just add a little bit of things right here is that one thing they considered was to tease particular material, which is pretty brutal, but is exciting for people to see, and saying that like Kaitlyn Harrow will also arrive in a role we haven't seen in the games, and she's not the only one. There's a pretty prominent character that is talked a lot about in the game, similar to what we did with Frank, played by Murray Bartlett, Season 1, that is in the season. He reveals there's a very, very cool casting that I hope we can talk about soon.
Oh.
And then again, folks, you can go read on the rest. And if you dare to, though, if you haven't played the game, keep yourself away from it. But that's it for the Entertainment Weekly article. That's the Seraphites leader. That's the big mama. That's the big mama he's talking about, man. Like, there's no fucking way it could be anybody else.
It has to be her. Wow.
What do you think about that?
That's fucking awesome. That's really, really cool. I mean, I think they did a great job of giving her characterization throughout like all the Seraphite lore, but actually being able to see her in action would be awesome. Because I mean, that's the difference between like the game and the show. I mean, you could still do it in the show of like, you know, you run to the Seraphites and they just talk about, you know, how, you know, her teachings and whatever, but being able to see them, it would be awesome. And then I'm assuming that means you'd probably get to see like her execution and everything. Like I think it'll really, I think for the WLF side of the story in Part 2, that adds a very strong explosive element to it. Like when you get to the raid and stuff, like that's going to add a lot more.
The island,
emotion and like wow, that's I like that a lot.
Imagine if Isaac is involved,
dude. I mean, I want Isaac. Like, dude, you cast Jeffrey Wright to come back. You're showing him a good amount. You're showing him a good amount in the teasers and stuff. Like, give this man some fucking meat. Like, give him oh man, now the wheels are turning, dude. That's my biggest thing with the show. Like, the character I want expanded the most is Isaac. So if you can really amp up Isaac and that feud with the Seraphites, and that's how you do it, oh man, we're gonna be eating good. That's gonna be great. Give Jeffrey Wright just like give him an episode by himself. Just like, oh man, that'd be great. Yeah.
And for folks who don't know how we feel about going into Season 2 and reading this article, seeing these photos, how I feel, and I think I could share this for Gianni, that I think we feel this way very, very much so.
Emotional damage.
Yeah. Very much, yeah.
That is coming down the pipeline.
Really,
folks, I'm going to wrap things up because we've talked the photos, we talked the article, and I think this is a good way to lead up how the next few months should be very interesting to see how market's going to play a factor and how much stuff they're going to play it very tight, how much they might even like show a scene and then cut away at the last frame before it reveals something big, which will be scary to dissect, even for me as someone who's an enthusiast and that does this YouTube stuff. Mikael Jordan asks, when come out? April. When in April? Who knows? Again, just to reiterate, Devil May Cry, Andor Season 2, and The Last of Us. April is going to be a fat, juicy month of the year for pop culture, and it's gonna wreck our livelihoods in terms of covering stuff on the internet.
Yeah.
It is gonna be hell, but I'm looking forward to the challenge.
Yeah. Challenge indeed.
Yeah. Paisano, thank you so much for taking the time to spend time on the podcast.
Oh, of
Mi
course,
casa
man.
su
It's always a
casa as
pleasure.
always. Man, plug yourself. Where can people find you?
If you want to watch some of my stuff, Johnny Bravo 6 on YouTube and Twitch. Haven't been doing as much on YouTube recently, but on Twitch I've been doing a lot of music streams and stuff. Listening to new albums and doing Music Mondays with Chainsaw Reacts, and he showed me metal music. I'm showing him rap music, and then uh, yeah, I do gameplay streams. I'm probably gonna replay The Last of Us games maybe before season 2 comes out. I don't know. But yeah, YouTube, Twitch, Johnny Bravo 6, movies, music, games, brain rot. That's me.
Here. And you can see us most of the times every week on Council Creators.
Yes.
Every Wednesday. So tune into that on Chainsaw Reacts channel, and you might sometimes see me pop up on the Party Nation live stream on Lance Geek Drum's channel. So go support those fellas as well. Let's see. Red Dragon says, "Yeah, that's for sure. Nintendo Switch 2 comes out in April." Jesus Christ!
Oh my god, dude.
That is fucking
Oh wow.
wild. Besides The Last of Us, that is fucking wild, man.
We're in for a
I'm
big
already
year
getting
this year.
I'm already getting tired of just thinking of it.
Yeah.
Folks, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. I want to reach 1,000 subs ASAP. Even if you are a new fan, old fan, somewhere in the middle fan, subscribe to the channel. We are huge fans of The Last of Us, and the more this channel grows, the more I have crazy ideas. I'm gonna give you a little hint. Crazy idea one I have is once I reach a milestone past the 1,000 subs that I want to reach, and I can start making money, and if the channel grows and grows, I can fly out to where Gianni's at, and we could shoot via travel a podcast. And even beyond that, I can hit him up, I can hit somebody up, and if again I'm at a good place where I can build these crazy ideas, I can fly them out to a nice cabin, and we could shoot a themed podcast and just go nuts and have live streams for everybody all around the world. I want people in Mexico, in Japan, in London. I want fans all around the world to be part of this podcast because it is such a rich franchise, and I think it deserves that much attention.
And
Miguel
have a
Jordan,
positive outlet about it, which is nice.
Yes, very much so. Thank you for saying that. More streams, Miguel. Again, like I've been saying, tell your friends to sub to the channel. Tell your relatives, tell their relatives and friends to sub to the channel. And if I get more subs, do it. If I get more subs, more likes, and if money talks to me, I will happily do more streams. But we gotta balance it out, folks. Take care, and as the great Ellie once said, to the edge of the universe and back, endure and survive. Adios.